Have you ever felt what it's like to jump into a lake? This is a way to be in even deeper contact with nature. After all, it's possible to feel a lot of what it can offer us, right? The freshness of the water, the pleasant wind, and we don't even need to talk about the sound of birds, do we? All of this is part of a package that shows you how beautiful life is. But if I could tell you that there is a lake that's the complete opposite of all this beauty, well, in today's video, I will show you Natron Lake, the lake that turns anyone into stone. I am Tiago Tadeo, and welcome to the Upside Down. The dangerous Natron Lake. In Tanzania, an African country with plenty of natural beauty as well as part of the states that form the great African continent stand out amidst them. However, its Great Lakes that form an ensemble of beauties aside, being 3 Great Lakes of Africa present in the country. 2 of them are extremely special, one of them being the largest lake of the continent and the other one the deepest. Their names are Victoria Lake and the Tanganyika Lake, respectively, of course. Despite having both of the most remarkable lakes in all Africa, it's another body of water, let's say, that ends up stealing the scene. That's the dangerous Natron Lake, which has vibrant red waters and is more dangerous than a hungry lion. Yes, this is a lake that can cause a lot of suffering to those who dare to jump in it. In the beginning, the danger of the lake was quite the mystery. No one could say for sure why the water was red. Those who dared to touch it would show up with wounds and burns in the parts that had submerged into the lake. Animals that ended up falling in there also didn't enjoy any good luck. They passed away under conditions that, well, I can't even describe here due to how complex it is. The weirdest thing about all of this was that any living thing that fell there and didn't manage to get out of it would enter a weird process, because they wouldn't decompose as would be the usual in nature. They simply would turn into stone, and that could even happen to people. This fact frightened and fascinated an English photographer named Nick Brandt, who upon visiting the dangerous Natron Lake decided to make a photo shoot with all the mummified animals that ended up petrified. The images are quite impressive, you know? Well, I told you before that the lake was a mystery to most people. After all, why did it cause all those harmful effects? That was a question that ended up being answered with time. The reason for the stone mummies. There's a very clear reason why Natron Lake caused burns and transformed organic material in stone, with science being able to explain this very well. All the blame for these harmful effects falls on the extreme salinity of the water. Yes, this was a saltwater lake in the middle of the continent, quite some kilometers of distance from the sea. It's the high salinity that explains the reddish coloration of the waters, such color that can also vary according to the seasons of the year. In warmer seasons, the temperature of the water rises and it reaches more vibrant tonalities, while in colder seasons, the opposite would happen. With that, the lake's visitors could see 2 different situations depending on the season they were vacationing in. And amazingly, guys, the trip to visit the lake is quite the common one, you know? It's the high pH of the waters that ends up causing the burns. In the human skin, it can cause blisters and small wounds that may reach different levels of severity. It will all depend on the resistance level of the person and how long it was exposed to the water. However, to turn into stone, of course, in definitive, it would be necessary to be exposed for a long time, so you won't see mummified people around Natron Lake. At least, that's not what it would be expected. The biggest victims end up being the bird that for a reason or another end up diving in the red water. The salinity's effect ends up being swifter in their fragile bodies. They're very small, right? Making it so that the burns are more severe, so it's not uncommon to see petrified birds in various corners of the lake. Another factor that also hinders these birds is the reflection of the water that ends up blinding the little animals. Just like the glass buildings, well, if it happens in the city, why would it not happen there with a layer of water that reflects the sun well, right? Now, there is another mystery behind these waters that left a lot of people unable to comprehend it, you know? A bird that's not affected by those harmful effects and that even knows how to take advantage of the lake's salinity. Look how fantastic! Would this be the X-Men of birds? Let's meet it, shall we? The super bird. When speaking of a super resistant bird, what do you imagine? A ferocious bird of prey? A great and robust bird? To live in Natron Lake, you would need to be part of the flamingo species. Yes guys, the flamingos are the birds that survive all the aggressive salinity of the most dangerous red waters of Tanzania. For some reason, these birds developed a resistance skill, and with the evolutionary years, they even learned how to take advantage of those waters. One of the animals that lives in the lake are the cyanobacteria that in higher temperatures proliferate in a more intense manner. So the flamingos of the region feed on those cyanobacteria, and with more food available, these birds become more prone to reproduce. There are also some fishes that swim in the lake springs and even on the red and highly salinized waters. These animals are extremely resistant, and without any great predators, end up having a good proliferation in the area. Cases like this are quite curious, right? After all, even in totally adverse places, it's still possible to find some form of life that managed to adapt well to these conditions, and even reap benefits from this hostile climate, right? But even these animals are under risk of not lasting long in nature. The preservation of Natron Lake. The Natron Lake was once considered one of the most important places of Tanzania because of its particularities and also because of the fact it could generate quite an income through tourism. However, according to some sources, it's under risk of suffering in a few years because the preservation of the lake has not been the best. The exploitation of the earth around the Natron Lake has affected the few wildlife of the region. The wood exploitation and the rise in plantation affects directly the local ecosystem, without accounting that it also leads to an increase in the fresh water to the lake, lessening its salinity and negatively affecting the organisms that inhabit it. Another key point is the idea a soda factory had. They wanted to extract water from the lake, which isn't very deep already, to use the sodium carbonate to make washing powder. The problem in itself would not be exactly the extraction, but in the way it would be done. With the passage of time, the preservation of Natron Lake will become more and more delicate. After all, new ideas of exploitation will come up, and not all impediment measures are being taken. They are essential so that this wonder can continue to be appreciated, right? Even though it can be very scary in many moments. But this is it, guys. Do you know about Natron Lake? Have you ever heard something about it? Did you know that salt could be so prejudicial and also so necessary to other species? Leave it down in the comments, okay? We'll see each other in the next video then. Bye, be well, and leave a like. It's very important, you know? Thanks.